Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty common, but surprisingly tricky. Updating your payment system in a project that's already up and running.
Yeah, it sounds straightforward, maybe like a routine update, but it really isn't.
Exactly. It touches everything, the tech stack, obviously, but also business continuity, security, and crucially, how your customers experience things.
Definitely. Get it wrong, and it can cause real chaos.
So we've sifted through a fair bit of material best practices, migration guides, the usual suspects to pull out the most important stuff.
Our goal here is basically to chart a path through this, highlight the potential pitfalls, and give you the key steps.
Right. So you can handle this kind of critical update without, well, breaking everything. Let's jump right in. First up, really getting clear on why you're doing this update in the first place and those initial planning steps.
Absolutely. That why question, it's fundamental. It guides the entire thing. Are you fixing security holes? That's a big one.
Or maybe adding new features, like things related to PSD2 or strong customer authentication.
Precisely. Or maybe your current API just isn't cutting it anymore. Or, the provider's ending support for the version you're on.
So nailing down that reason is key.
It really is. It justifies the whole effort, helps you prioritize, helps you get the resources you need. And look, often it starts as fixing technical debt, right?
Yeah, usually.
But you should also frame it as an opportunity. How can this improve things for the customer? Can it open up new ways to make money? Don't just fix. Think bigger. Think strategically.
Okay, I like that. So the why is clear, maybe even points to some cool new possibilities. What's the immediate next step? You can't just start coding, I assume.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
The next thing you absolutely have to do is get to know the new system. Really understand it inside out.
Meaning diving into the documentation.
Yep, all of it. The
Yeah.
API docs, any migration guides they provide, and those release notes people often skip.
Ah, the release notes.
Yeah.
Always important.
They really are. What you're looking for is the delta,
Uh,
the differences. What are the breaking changes, things that will force you to change your code?
okay.
What new features are there? Could you use them, make things better? And also, what's being deprecated? What parts of your current setup are going away and need replacing?
Got it. So doing that homework up front saves headaches later.
Huge dividends. It's like getting the blueprints before you start building. You avoid nasty surprises down the line.
Makes total sense, like reading the instructions before assembling the IKEA furniture, right? But it's not just about the new system, is it? You need to know your current setup, too.
Exactly right. You need a really thorough analysis of your current integration, like map it all out.
Map out how everything talks to the old payment system.
Precisely. Payment processing, yeah, refunds, obviously, but also subscriptions, how you handle webhooks, those real-time notifications where customer payment data lives, even how you do your financial reconciliation.
Okay, digging deep.
And here's a critical bit. Identify any custom code, any workarounds you built over the years.
The special tweaks.
Yeah, those are often the hidden traps, the things that break unexpectedly during a migration. It's like checking under all the rugs before you renovate. Find the hidden stuff.
Okay, so you've inventoried the old, researched the new.
Yeah.
Now, figuring out how to get from A to B, that sounds like where the real complexity kicks in.
It definitely can, especially if you haven't done a proper impact assessment first. And this goes way beyond just the code itself.
Like which other parts of the system get affected?
Yeah. Front end, obviously, where users type stuff in.
Mhm.
Back end, the processing logic. But think database, too, where payment details might be stored, your reporting tools, even accounting. They need accurate data.
Right, it ripples outwards.
And maybe the most important ripple,
Yeah.
your existing customers.
Mhm.
How does this hit them?
Yeah.
Saved payment methods,
Mm.
active subscriptions. Do they suddenly need to re-enter their card details? That's a huge user experience issue.
Oof, yeah. You don't want to annoy your paying customers.
Absolutely not. And part of this assessment is also estimating the effort. How much time, how many people, get a realistic handle on the resources needed.
And I'm guessing a huge chunk of that impact, maybe the scariest part, is the data. Moving payment data safely.
You nailed it. Data migration is often the most technically complex part, and yeah, it carries the most risk.
So what kind of data are we talking about specifically?
Several key things. Payment tokens, those secure references to card details. How do you migrate those?
Yeah.
Or do you have to retokenize?
Can the provider help with that?
Often, yes.
Yeah.
Many providers have tools or specific APIs for token migration. Definitely ask them. Then there are subscriptions. How do you move active ones without messing up billing cycles?
Tricky.
Very. And historical transaction data. Do you need to migrate all of it? Or can you still access old records through the gateway if needed for reports or support?
Good question.
And finally, Just general customer data related to payments. Is the structure changing in the new system? Anything you need to adapt.
Okay, so the data landscape is mapped out. Now you actually have to move it or at least figure out the new way of handling it. I remember reading about different ways to actually do the migration, some sounding much riskier than others for a live project.
Absolutely. There are a few main strategies. You've got the Big Bang approach.
Sounds dramatic.
It is. Flip the switch, everyone moves at once. Seems efficient, maybe. But for a running project, super high risk. If something goes wrong, everyone is affected instantly.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad idea for most businesses.
Generally, yes. That's why a phased rollout is almost always the better, safer bet.
Phase rollout, like how?
Couple of ways. Maybe all new users go onto the new system first, while existing users stay on the old one for a bit. Or you could migrate feature by feature. Start with, say, one-time payments, get that stable, then tackle subscriptions.
Okay, breaking it down.
Or canary release, roll it out to a tiny percentage of users first, monitor like crazy, see how it behaves in the wild before going broader.
Smart, like testing the waters.
Exactly. If there's a dark launch or parallel run, you run both systems side by side, maybe process payments through both in the background, compare the results, make sure everything matches up before you switch off the old one.
That sounds very thorough.
It is. And finally, feature flags. These are great. They let you toggle the new payment logic on or off within your code, maybe for specific user groups or percentages. Gives you super fine-grained control and makes rolling back really easy if you hit a snag.
Feature flags seem really powerful for this kind of thing, especially if you have a smaller team, maybe?
Yeah, I think for many, feature flags or that gradual feature-by-feature approach strike a good balance between safety and just being manageable.
Okay, those phased approaches definitely sound more reassuring for a live system. But, even with the best plans, things can still go wrong, right? You need a safety net.
You absolutely do. A solid, and this is crucial, a tested rollback plan. It's non-negotiable.
Tested being the key word there.
Definitely. Don't just write it down. Actually, try it out in your staging environment. Know exactly what triggers a rollback, what the steps are, who does what. Thinking through those what-ifs beforehand can turn a potential disaster into just a minor blip. It's your spare tire, and you need to know how to use it.
Got it. And all this planning, building the new integration, testing the rollback, it feels like it needs its own dedicated space, right? Not messing with the live system.
Spot on. A dedicated development or staging environment is essential. It needs to mirror production as closely as possible.
Including realistic data.
Yeah. Realistic data anonymized if you need to be careful. And crucially, test credentials for the new payment gateway version. This is your sandbox. Build, test, break things, fix things, all without touching live users.
Okay. And one last thing before we even think about code. Communication, making sure everyone's in the loop.
Vital. A clear communication plan. Internally, dev team, product, support, finance, everyone needs to be aligned. Know the plan, the risks, the timeline.
And externally.
Yeah.
To users.
Yeah, if there's any chance of downtime, even brief, or if users might need to do something like re-enter card details, which you want to avoid. If possible, you need a clear, proactive external communication plan. Manage expectations, minimize frustration.
Right. Okay, so that's phase one. Solid planning, understanding the landscape, communication. Now let's get into the actual building part, development and implementation. Where do you start?
Well, a really good first technical step is often to isolate your payment logic. If it's tangled up everywhere in your code, now is the time to refactor.
Encapsulate it. Make it modular.
Exactly. Use interfaces, abstract classes, whatever fits your architecture. Make it so you can essentially unplug the old payment module and plug in the new one cleanly. It just makes the whole process much less messy.
Good software design principle anyway, right?
Right.
What about actually talking to the new payment provider system?
Right. That's the core integration work. You'll install their new SDKs or libraries. Then, using those docs you studied earlier, you update your API calls.
Meaning the format of the requests.
Yeah.
How you handle responses.
Yep. How you structure the request data, how you parse the responses, and really importantly, how you handle errors. The new system will likely have different error codes, different patterns. You need to adapt your error handling logic.
And that data migration piece we talked about, where does the actual work happen?
If you decided migration is needed, this is the phase where you write and test those migration scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, this can be really complex.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So don't be shy about leaning on your payment provider here.
Yeah.
See what tools or support they offer. They do this all the time. They might have scripts or expertise to share.
Good point. What about webhooks? Those background notifications?
Ah, yes. If you use webhooks for things like payment success confirmations or disputes or subscription updates, you'll almost certainly need to update your webhook endpoints.
Because the new system sends different data.
Probably. Different event types, maybe different data structures in the payload. So you need to adjust your code to understand and correctly process these new notifications. And testing this thoroughly is super important. You don't want to miss critical events.
Definitely not. And security, always top of mind with payments. What needs attention here during development?
Yeah, always. You need to revisit your PCI DSS compliance requirements. Does the new system change anything there? Yeah. Make sure you're handling sensitive data credentials, API keys securely, following best practices, and the provider's specific guidelines.
Right, secure coding practices.
Absolutely. And finally, for this phase, you need visibility. You need good logging.
You log everything.
Well, log smartly but comprehensively for the new payment flow. Track successes, failures, retries, and set up monitoring and alerts. Watch key metrics like success rates, error rates, performance. You want to catch any problems quickly.
Okay, makes sense. So the code's written, data's hopefully moved correctly, it works in dev. The next big mountain to climb is testing.
Testing. And yeah, let me say it again. Extensive testing. Multifaceted testing. You cannot skimp your...
Where do you start? Unit tests.
Yep. Start with unit tests for your individual components, then integration tests, make sure your code talks correctly to the new gateway API. But the really heavy lifting is end-to-end testing. E2E.
Simulating the whole user journey.
Exactly. From start to finish. Think through all the scenarios.
Yeah.
Successful payments, different card types, different methods.
Yeah.
Failed payments, insufficient funds, wrong CVC, expired card. How does your system handle those gracefully?
Refunds, too.
Full refunds, partial refunds.
Yeah.
The entire subscription lifecycle, creating them, updating payment methods, cancellations, renewals. What happens when a user updates their stored card? And test those webhooks again really rigorously. Are you getting the notifications? Are you processing them right?
Wow, that is a lot of scenarios to cover. Any specific tools or tips for that?
Definitely use the test card numbers and sandbox accounts the payment provider gives you. That lets you simulate all sorts of results without moving real money.
Right, the magic test cards.
Exactly. And if you did data migration, test that migrated data thoroughly in the new system. Is it accurate? Complete? Is everything linked up correctly?
And test the rollback plan.
Absolutely. Test the rollback plan in staging. Make sure it works. Make sure it's fast. Also, performance testing. Can the new system handle your peak load? Don't introduce a bottleneck.
Okay. Anything else on the testing front?
User acceptance testing. Get real humans involved. Internal folks, maybe a small group of friendly beta users if you can. Let it go through the payment flows. They often find usability quirks or edge cases that automated tests miss.
That's a great point. Real user feedback is invaluable. Okay, so after all that testing, assuming it all looks good, we're heading towards deployment. This is the tense moment, right?
It can be.
Yeah.
But thorough preparation helps a lot. First rule, backups. Before you deploy anything to live, back up everything. Database, application code, your ultimate safety net.
Always have a backup. Got it.
If you think there might be even a small service interruption, schedule a maintenance window. Communicate it clearly, well in advance.
Manage expectations.
Yep. And always, always deploy to staging first for one last round of checks. A final sanity check in an environment that's almost identical to production.
Makes sense. For the actual rollout.
Then you execute the strategy you chose way back in planning. Phased rollout. Turn on feature flags gradually. Follow your plan.
And be ready to.
Be ready to monitor like a hawk immediately after deployment. Watch those dashboards. Watch the error logs, and have that rollback plan ready to go. Team on standby, just in case.
Okay, here. The new system is live, taking payments. Are we done? Can we relax now?
Almost. Not quite relaxed time yet. The post-deployment phase is still really important.
More monitoring.
Intensive monitoring continues for a while. Keep watching logs, error rates, success rates. Keep an eye on customer support channels or users reporting any weird issues.
Gather feedback, too.
Definitely. Actively ask for feedback if you can. See if users have run into anything unexpected. Then, as you get more confident that everything's stable, then you can start thinking about decommissioning the old system.
Ah, the cleanup phase.
Right. Remove the old code, turn off old configurations, sever those connections.
Yeah.
If you migrated tokens, make sure the old ones are properly invalidated or removed from the old system, whatever the provider recommends.
Tidy up properly.
Exactly. And, crucially, update your internal documentation. Document the new integration, new processes, new troubleshooting steps, and finally do a retrospective.
A post-mortem.
Yeah, or a lessons learned session. What went well, what didn't? What could you do better next time you have to do a major update like this? It's super valuable for the team.
That's a great practice.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, for someone listening who's facing this right now or knows it's coming, what are the absolute must-remember points for doing this on a live running project?
Okay, key takeaways for a running project. Number one, minimize downtime. Use those phased rollouts, use feature flags, protect your uptime.
Makes sense.
Number two, data integrity is absolutely paramount. You cannot lose or corrupt payment data, period.
Non-negotiable.
Number three, if it's feasible, look into backward compatibility during the transition. Can you make it smoother for users?
If possible, yeah.
And number four, maybe the biggest one, focus relentlessly on the customer experience. Avoid making them re-enter details unless absolutely necessary. Communicate clearly, proactively explain why if changes are needed. Keep them happy.
Excellent summary. This has been super insightful. It really drives home that updating a payment system isn't just flipping a technical switch. It's a whole strategic operation.
It really is.
Yeah.
Meticulous planning, tons of testing, that careful phased approach. It's all needed to reduce risk and make sure it goes smoothly for the business and for the users.
Absolutely. You know, thinking about how interconnected everything is these days,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other updates, things that seem maybe small or isolated, like updating a library or changing some third-party service, could actually have huge ripple effects if you don't manage them just as carefully as this payment system example.
That's a really great point. It encourages you to always think systemically, doesn't it? Look beyond the immediate task. Consider the whole ecosystem. What are the dependencies? What could break?
A very valuable perspective indeed. Well, thank you for taking us through this deep dive. It's been incredibly helpful.
My pleasure. It's a critical topic.
It really is. So, until our next exploration, keep those projects running smoothly, everyone.